Have you ever read the Tintin series of comic books? Well, if yes, you might remember a particular one, King Ottokar's Scepter, and a scene in which a secret agent takes a secret photograph of Tintin using a pocket watch spy camera. There's also a scene in the film Dr. Strangelove where the Russian ambassador uses a similar pocket watch camera to take secret photos. Now, since seeing both of these, I've been very interested in the idea of spy cameras. And what I plan to do in these videos is to make my own spy camera that resembles an old-fashioned pocket watch. Now, there used to be pocket watch cameras that you could buy, like these. But unlike these, what I want is a camera that looks identical to an old-fashioned pocket watch. And I think the easiest way to do this is to put the camera inside a genuine pocket watch. So I got this watch from eBay. It doesn't work. And what we'll do now is take it apart and see how feasible this might be. So as I said, what I'm going to do now is just take the watch apart as much as possible. Then I'll be able to get an idea of how I might be able to fit the camera inside. So now just removing the face and hands. Removing the back. Now we can access the screws that hold the mechanism in the watch. Now we can remove the winding crown, and with all the screws undone we can take out the mechanism. We won't actually be needing the mechanism, so we can just throw it out for now. So now that that's done, I'll just talk about the three basic components of the camera that I'll have to incorporate into my watch. So first of all, there's the lens. That's just the part that focuses the light. Then there's the shutter. So that's the part that either lets light in or doesn't, basically. And there's the film holding part. So that's just the part that holds the film in place and holds it flat. So the basic plan is that if this is my watch, the face of the watch will hold the pinhole lens. That'll be in the center of the face. And the main body of the watch will hold the shutter mechanism, and the back of the watch will hold my film in place. Now in this video I'll just be making the shutter mechanism. That's the most complex part, and in part 2 I'll be making the film holder and the lens. So I'll just talk now about how I plan to make this shutter mechanism. So I've made this mock-up out of paper just to explain how it'll work. And you can see the middle part slides in and out, opening and closing the hole, so letting light in or not. And this whole thing will be right in the middle of the watch, and it'll be operated by the winding crown. So pulling up will open the shutter, letting it go, the shutter will close. Okay, so now making the actual thing, I'll be making it out of this old coffee can. And that's just because it's an easy material to work with, and it should make the final shutter as reliable as possible. Okay, so now I've got a nice flat piece of metal. I'm just using the scalpel as a scribe and then cutting the pieces out with the tin cutters. Oh, if you remember the mock-up, what I'm doing now is just making the holes where the light's supposed to come through. I definitely found that the hole punch was the best thing to use. I think for a metal this soft and thin, a drill doesn't really work very well. Yeah, there really are quite a few small pieces that need to be cut out, but we're nearly done. Oh, and remembering the mock-up again, this will be the middle piece, the piece that slides in and out. Okay, so with all the pieces of the main part of the shutter cut out, I can now glue them all together and we can see how it functions. Okay, so what I have now is basically the paper mock-up but made out of metal. And you can see it works the same, so you pull on the middle part, the shutter opens, and you push it back in, it's closed. And I'll just add a bit of oil so that it functions a bit more smoothly. Right, now the next thing I'm going to do is add a spring to this mechanism. And this is just so when I pull the shutter open to take a photo, I can just let go and the shutter will spring closed by itself. Okay, so now again all the pieces are cut out and bent, and I can glue them together and we'll see how it works. Okay, now I did just add a couple of pieces of metal to strengthen the mechanism at the front there, but you can see the middle part still moves as it should, and we can now add the spring. Okay, so off camera I just made a couple of holes, one at the front, one at the back, using a pin, and now I can thread a thin piece of wire through the spring. And then fasten it at one end. And now pulling the wire, you can see it works very well. So the idea is you pull on the shutter to take a photo, you hold it for a split second, and then just let it spring back. So the last thing to do now is just to mount the shutter mechanism into the body of the watch. So I'm starting with a thick piece of black card, which I'm cutting into a circle the same diameter as the inside of the watch. And then gluing it into place. Okay, so now the final thing to do is just to mount the mechanism onto the black card. Now this is really the last thing I'm going to do, which is just to attach a little piece of wire to the winding crown, which can then be attached to the shutter. Now this is the only difficult part really, threading the little piece of wire through both holes and the spring. And now wrapping the wire around the back. And now this part of the watch is finished. And you can see it works as it should. So eventually, to take a picture, you'll just have to pull on the winding crown, hold it for a split second, let go, and it'll spring straight back. Okay, now I have my working shutter mechanism. Look out for part 2 where I make the lens, the film back, and where I test it all out. Thanks for watching.